The wind howled outside Ethan's small wooden cabin. Snowflakes danced in the dark night sky, covering everything in white. Inside, Ethan sat alone near a burning fireplace. He wrapped himself in a thick blanket and sipped hot tea from an old metal cup. Ethan was a quiet man. He lived far away from the city, in the cold mountains. People said he liked silence more than words, and tonight was very silent. Too silent. Beside him, an old radio rested on a wooden table. It crackled with static the same way it did every night. Ethan didn't expect anything new from it, just like the soft noise while reading his book. But then, something changed. KSHHH. Hello? The radio made a strange sound. Ethan stopped reading. He looked at the radio, confused. Then he heard it again. Help. Me. The voice was soft, like a child. It was broken and full of static. Ethan turned the radio dial. Is someone there? He asked. Silence. Then, cold. I'm lost. The voice returned, slow and scared. Ethan's heart beat faster. Was this a prank? Maybe some kid with a radio toy? Where are you? He asked, now serious. In the snow, under the stars. The voice whispered. The voice disappeared. Ethan stood up quickly. He looked outside the window. Snow was falling. Harder now. He couldn't see anything but white. Still, something about the voice felt real and sad. He wore his boots and heavy coat, took his flashlight, and stepped outside. His cabin light faded behind him as he walked into the cold night. The forest was silent. Only the sound of snow under his boots. Hello. Ethan called out. No answer. He walked for 15 minutes. The cold air touched his face like ice. Then, suddenly, his flashlight flickered. The trees around him began to glow with a soft blue light. What the? And then he saw it. A small figure stood near the trees, very still, very small. It looked like a child, but it was glowing. A faint silver-blue light came from its skin. Ethan froze. The figure looked at him, then vanished. Ethan ran forward, but there was no one. Just snow, and something strange on the ground. A tiny handprint. But it was not made of snow. It glowed like light. Warm and soft. Ethan touched it and felt a tiny shock in his finger, like static. He looked up at the sky. Stars were shining. Above, he remembered the voice, in the snow, under the stars. Ethan turned around slowly. He felt watched, but the forest was empty. He returned to the cabin, eyes wide, heart racing. Inside, the radio was silent again. Only static. Ethan sat down near the fire, staring at the radio. Was he going crazy? Or had something just called him? He didn't know. But he felt something deep inside, something pulling him closer too. The mystery and far away. In the cold night sky, a tiny silver eye blinked above the clouds. Asterisk, it had been 3 nights since Ethan heard the voice on the radio. 3 long, quiet nights. But something had changed inside him. He didn't sleep. Well, he often stared at the forest, waiting, listening. The snow was still thick outside, but the voice had not returned. No lights, no prints, nothing. Until tonight, it was past midnight. The wind had stopped. The forest stood still, frozen like a painting. Ethan sat beside his fire again, half asleep, when he heard it knock. Knock. A soft knock on the door. He stood up fast. His heart jumped. No one ever came here. Knock, this time a little louder. Slower, Ethan grabbed a flashlight and walked to the door. He opened it slowly and froze. Ah! Small figure stood in the snow, barefoot, shivering, glowing. It was the girl. But she wasn't really a girl, not fully. She had the size of a child, Yes, but her skin was pale silver, and tiny lights moved under it like stars. Her eyes were wide and bright, full of questions and fear. She said nothing. Ethan said, "Are you?" from the radio. The girl blinked. She tilted her head, then raised one finger and tapped her chest. A soft light shined from a tiny round crystal inside her skin. It blinked once, twice. Then she whispered, slowly, cold. Ethan opened the door wider. "Come in," he said. She stepped in. Feet didn't leave prints on the wooden floor. Ethan gave her a blanket. She held it tight, but didn't sit. She just looked around with wide eyes, touching things gently, like she had never seen them before. She stopped at the radio signal. She said softly, "I used this." Ethan sat down. "What are you?" She turned to him. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she raised her hand and formed a small image, like a floating light drawing in the air. It showed a ship, broken, burning, falling from the sky. Then it showed snow, trees, and a blinking red light. "You crashed," Ethan whispered. She nodded. She touched her chest again. "Naya," she said. "I am." Naya. Ethan pointed to himself. "I'm Ethan." She listened and then smiled. She repeated in his voice, "I am Ethan." He laughed nervously. "No, I'm Ethan. You're Naya." Naya blinked again. Her head tilted, confused. Then she smiled wider. "Ethan, Naya, friends." Suddenly, lights outside the cabin flickered. Ethan looked through the window. The snow. It wasn't white anymore. It was glowing blue. A soft hum filled the air. It was low, deep, and cold. Naya stood still. Her face changed. She looked afraid. She ran to the door and closed it fast. Her tiny hands glowed as she placed them on the wooden wall. A light spread like a web, forming a shield of energy. "What is it?" Ethan asked. Naya whispered. They followed. Ethan felt a chill, not from the cold, but from something deeper. "Who?" She pointed up. "Bad sky, they come. Not like you. No heart." Ethan didn't understand fully, but he saw fear in her eyes. She walked to the fireplace. Warmth made her glow brighter. She sat near it, wrapping the blanket tighter around her. Ethan placed a cup of warm tea in front of her. She sniffed it and smiled again. Then she reached out and gently touched Ethan's hand. A small spark of light passed from her fingers to his skin, and for 1 second, Ethan saw something in his mind. A planet, full of light and laughter. Children with glowing hair, floating trees. Sky that sang like music. And then fire. Screams, machines, destruction. Naya's world gone. Ethan gasped and pulled back. Naya looked down. "I ran," she said. "Now only me." Ethan's chest felt heavy. She was alone, in this cold world, and now he wasn't just a man in a cabin anymore. He was the only person she could trust. Outside, snow began to hum louder, but inside, strangers sat, together, sharing warmth, silence, and something beginning to grow. A connection. Snow usually felt soft and quiet, but tonight it was alive. It pulsed with light, cold, blue, and slow, as if something deep under the ground had started to breathe. Ethan stood by the window of his cabin, watching in silence. His fingers rested on the cold glass. The trees outside looked calm. But he knew better now. Something had changed. Behind him, Naya sat curled up near the fire. Her silver eyes blinked slowly. Her glowing skin had dimmed since the night before. She was tired out. Ethan brought her a cup of warm soup. She held it with both hands, her fingers trembling slightly. "You need rest," he said softly. Naya looked up. "No time." She pointed outside, toward the glowing snow. They are close. Ethan frowned. Who are they? She didn't answer. Instead, she opened her palm. Small light rose from her skin, floating, spinning, and shaped into a message. Only Ruby Kiss has the luxurious texture that glides on. It's ficting sedictorous smooth, and leaves a rich, long-lasting color. Instead, / a light siege. So new image. This time, Ethan saw machines, tall, black shapes with sharp arms and red eyes. They moved across her planet like shadows made of metal. They didn't speak. They didn't stop. They took everything. Naya closed her hand. The light disappeared. They want what's inside me, she whispered. Ethan looked at her. What is inside you? Naya touched her chest again, where a small blue crystal glowed beneath her skin. It's not just power, she said. It's memory, it's hope. Ethan sat beside her. Why come here? She looked into his eyes. Because humans still feel. There was silence, and then a loud buzzing outside. Like angry bees trapped in a metal box, Ethan rushed to the door. In the sky, black shapes moved above the trees, smooth, round. Blinking with red lights. Drones. Double quotes. They found me. Naya said. Ethan pulled her toward the basement door. Quick, downstairs. The basement was dark, but dry. It was where Ethan kept old tools, wires, and junk from his old job as a radio technician. He had once worked in a satellite lab before he left the noisy world behind. Now, that same knowledge might save both of them. He locked the basement door from inside. The drones flew past the cabin, scanning. Naya sat on a wooden box, weak. Her glow faded more. She looked pale. You're sick, Ethan said. I need light. Real light, she replied. From my star. Ethan walked over to a dusty metal cabinet. Inside were wires, batteries, and one old solar generator, weak, but maybe enough. He placed the device beside her. Will this help? Naya placed her hand on it. Her fingers lit up, and the machine responded. A low hum filled the room. Slowly, color returned to her skin. She smiled slightly. Ethan smiled back. That's better. Suddenly, a loud thump above the cabin. Floor shook. Ethan's smile disappeared. There on the roof, he whispered. Naya's eyes turned white for a moment, glowing from inside. She raised both hands, and a small orb of light floated up to the basement ceiling. Ethan looked. Up. Inside the light orb was a memory. It showed a quiet moment on her world. Children, like Naya, laughing under trees that floated. 2 stars in the sky. A world of peace. Then a dark hole in the sky opened. Metal creatures rained down. Fire, screams, and the last image, Naya, running, carrying a bright crystal in her hands. Ethan felt his throat tighten. You lost your home, he said. Naya nodded. But you still have the code. That's what they want. Yes, she whispered. But they cannot use it. Only one who feels can unlock it. Feels what? Naya looked at him. Kindness, pain, love. Ethan sat down, shaken. He had left the world because he didn't feel anything anymore. Now, a girl from the stars told him he might be the key to saving what remained of hers. Outside, the snow pulsed brighter. Blue, cold. Alive, but inside, 2 different lives, one human, one alien, sat together in quiet understanding, and above them, the drones scanned, waited, and began to circle back. Ethan didn't sleep that night, not because of the cold, not because of fear, but because of what he had seen in Naya's memories. The floating trees, the singing stars, the laughing children. Then fire, metal, darkness. It felt like someone had dropped a galaxy inside his chest and whispered, Hold it carefully. He looked over at NIAH. She slept curled up in the corner of the basement, glowing faintly. Not just from her body, but from something inside her. A soft blue light pulsed beneath her skin, slow and steady, like a heartbeat made of stars. He whispered to himself, "What are you really?" Suddenly, Naya stirred. She opened her eyes. They glowed white for a second, then faded back to silver. "You saw it," she said quietly. Ethan nodded. "All of it." She sat up slowly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want to show the pain." Ethan shook his head. "You had to." There was a long silence between them. Then Naya touched her chest. "There is more," she said. A small piece of her skin opened, not like a wound, but like soft glass sliding apart. Inside was a crystal, no larger than a marble, glowing blue, spinning gently in the air. "What is that?" Ethan asked. Breathless, she looked at it the way someone looks at a family photo or an old song. "It's the memory of my people," she said. "It holds our voices, our names, our hopes." Ethan reached out to touch it, but she pulled back. Slightly. "It's alive," she added. "But ... broken, broken." Naya nodded. "When my ship crashed, the code inside shattered. Now it can't complete itself. Unless," she paused, "unless it finds balance. One heart ... cannot carry it alone." Ethan looked confused. "So ... you need someone?" She met his eyes. "I chose you." He stared at her. "Why me?" "You feel lonely," she said, "but your heart is warm. That's rare." Ethan looked away. No one had said something like that to him in years. Outside, the snow glowed brighter again. The drones were near. Naya stood up. "They'll come again. They will take the crystal and destroy what's left inside." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Then we stop them." Naya looked surprised. "You will help me?" He nodded. "I don't know why I'm the one, but I'm not going to let you lose everything twice." Naya smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. She stepped forward. "Then we must complete the connection," she said. "What does that mean?" She reached out both hands. "Hold on." Ethan hesitated, then placed his hands into hers. Suddenly, the basement faded away. Ethan stood in a dark sky. Stars floated all around him like fireflies. In front of him, Naya's memory opened like a book. He saw her people again. Their kindness, their beauty, the peace they had built. He saw her as a baby, glowing in her mother's arms. He saw her learning to sing the star language of her world. He saw the moment they placed the crystal in her chest and told her to run. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. This wasn't just information. It was life, soul, story. When the vision ended, they were back in the basement. Ethan stepped back, breathless. "I saw everything," he whispered. Naya nodded. "Now?" "The memory knows you," she said. "You're part of it." "But what do we do next?" "We send it," Naya said, "to the sky." Ethan frowned. "We don't have a signal tower." Naya pointed to the corner. "The old lab." Ethan froze. Upstairs, hidden behind the bookshelf, was a door he hadn't opened in 5 years, since the last time he gave up on his work, his city, and himself. But maybe now, it had a purpose. He nodded slowly. "We'll try." Naya looked relieved. Then suddenly, a loud crash above. The floor shook. Ethan grabbed a tool. Naya raised her hands, forming a shield of light. Footsteps, metal ones. "They're here," Naya said quietly. Ethan looked at the glowing crystal. "We're not ready." Naya looked up at him. "We don't run." For the first time in his life, Ethan agreed. The first metal foot crashed through the cabin ceiling like thunder. Ethan grabbed Naya's hand. "We have to move, now." She didn't ask questions. Her silver eyes turned bright white, and the crystal inside her chest began to glow faster, like a heartbeat in panic. The floor above creaked. Then, boom. A sharp black leg punched through the wood beside them, slicing the air like a blade. Naya raised her palm. A glowing bubble of light surrounded them for just a second, enough to hold off the next strike. Not strong for long, she whispered, "We go." Ethan nodded. He kicked open the old lab door at the back of the basement. Dust poured out, along with the smell of cold metal and forgotten years. Inside, rusted computers, wires, toolboxes, and one old satellite dish, covered by a tarp. "That dish," Naya said, "can send the memory. But it's broken," Ethan replied. She looked at him. "Fix it. I'll protect." Then she turned and walked out of the room, straight toward the enemy. Outside, the forest looked like it was breathing. The blue glow in the snow had turned deep, pulsing like veins. Ethan dragged the dish onto the table and opened the control box. Sparks flew. Rust crumbled. "No power," he muttered. No signal, no time. But something inside him remembered the rhythm of wires, the quiet logic of circuits. He hadn't touched this tech in years, but his fingers remembered better than his mind. Outside, Naya stood in the snow, her arms raised. A ring of light spread from her, holding the machines back. For now, but there were more this time. At least 6. Their bodies were spider-like, tall and silent. They didn't walk, they glided, and they wanted what was in her chest. Ethan rewired the panel. He connected the old solar battery from the basement and prayed the winter. Sun had left enough power in it. The lights on the dish blinked once, twice, then died. No, 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 no. Ethan slammed his fist on the table. Then he saw it. A backup generator, small, dusty, forgotten in a corner. It might give them 30 seconds. He grabbed it, connected the wire, and the dish came to life. A soft green light. Then the screen flashed. Connection ready. Naya. He shouted. She heard him. The light around her began to pull inward. Her body trembled. She was using everything she had left. She flew toward the cabin. One final push, but one machine was faster. It fired a thin bolt of red energy, struck her shoulder. She fell. Ethan screamed and ran outside. She lay in the snow, chest rising slowly, the crystal dimming. "Don't go," he said. She looked up, smiled weakly. "Go. To lab. Finish." Ethan picked her up and carried her inside. He placed her hand on the dish's control crystal. The interface glowed blue. Her voice came, soft and distant. "Code, ready. Must feel, must share." Ethan placed his hand over hers. A beam of light shot from the dish through the cabin roof. Straight into the sky, the machines outside stopped. Their red eyes turned blue. The snow stopped glowing. Silence. 9AH. Single quotes as body stopped shaking. The crystal faded. Ethan fell to his knees. "Naya," she opened her eyes. "I gave it," she whispered. "All of it." He held her hand. "What happens now?" She smiled gently. "Now the memory lives in you." And then she disappeared. Not like death, more like light becoming air, like starlight fading into morning. Ethan sat alone in the lab, the soft sound of the satellite dish still humming. And outside, the machines turned and walked away. Back into the snow, peacefully, asterisk snowflakes fell again. Soft and slow, but this snow was different. It no longer glowed blue, no longer hummed with danger. The machines were gone, silent as if someone had switched off their purpose. But Ethan couldn't feel peace, not yet. He stood in the middle of the lab. His hands were cold, his eyes wide, his heart too full, yet painfully empty. Naya was gone, not dead, not broken, just light now. Part of the signal she had sent into the sky. The old satellite dish still buzzed gently behind him. The memory had been broadcast, the message shared, but the weight remained with him, like a galaxy had. Shifted onto his shoulders. He looked down at his hand. It still glowed faintly. Where her fingers had touched his skin, a small mark remained like a snowflake made of light. Suddenly, the lab lights flickered, then went out. The room fell silent. Then, a voice, not from outside, not from the radio, from inside him. Connection. Not complete, ... double quotes, Ethan gasped. Naya, the voice was softer, echo-like, but warm. You hold the rest. The final code lives inside you now. He staggered backward. But I'm not. I'm just a man. I don't know what to do. Silence. Then the screen blinked on it showed him. Himself, but not the Ethan of now. It showed the Ethan from years ago. Young. Hopeful. Building satellite relays in a city far from here. Then it showed him walking away. Lonely, broken, quitting. Then, Naya, arriving like a whisper in the snow, teaching him to feel again. The screen faded to black, and the voice returned. The core is not technology, it is feeling. You are the final key. He sank to the floor. Tears burned in his eyes. I was empty before her, he said quietly. Why? Me? Because you remembered how to care. The lab began to glow soft white this time, not from machines, but from the snow outside. It had returned, but now it shimmered like moonlight, and with it, something floated toward the cabin. A tiny orb of light. Ethan opened the door and stepped into the snow. The orb hovered before him. It pulsed like a tiny heartbeat. He reached out, it landed on his chest. Suddenly, he felt everything. Naya's joy as a child, her fear as her world fell, her hope. When she chose Earth and her trust. When she chose him, he collapsed to his knees. The snow fell around him, but it didn't feel cold anymore. Hours passed. The machines remained in the forest. Still, frozen, peaceful. They no longer hunted. They no longer followed old orders. The signal had reached them. The memory had changed them down inside the lab. Ethan stood before the console. One final message blinked. Would you like to upload the full core to orbit? Yes, no. He looked out the window, then pressed yes. The dish lit up once more, brighter than before. The beam of light rose through the cabin roof into the sky and kept going higher, stronger, reaching far beyond Earth, somewhere above in the dark ocean of stars. A signal moved, not just a cry for help, but a story, a memory, a seed of connection. Ethan stepped outside. Snow still fell gently around him, but in his chest. Warmth grew. He walked toward the forest, not afraid anymore. The machines turned their heads as he passed. They did not attack. They simply watched him. Like listeners after a long story, he reached the place where Naya had first appeared. The tiny glowing handprint in the snow, still there. He knelt beside it, closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." The snow had stopped, not suddenly, not loudly, just gently, like a song coming to its final note. Ethan stood alone in the forest, where it all began. The trees were silent. The sky was clear. The stars above blinked like soft eyes, watching, kindly, from far away. No machines, no glow, only peace. He looked down at the handprint in the snow, the same tiny glowing mark Naya left when she first appeared. It shimmered faintly now, like it didn't want to be forgotten. Ethan touched it. A pulse of warmth moved through his fingers into his chest, and then he heard her voice. Not through the radio, not through his ears, but from the memory inside. Him, I am still here. In you, he smiled softly, closed his eyes. Let the silence hold him. Days passed, the machines, once hunters, now stood like statues at the edge of the forest, no longer cold, no longer angry. They watched the world with stillness. As if trying to understand it, Ethan returned to his cabin. It was quiet again, but not the same kind of quiet. Not empty full. Full every sound, the wind, the fire, the creak of wood, felt different now, like someone was listening with him. Sometimes, late at night, the old radio would flicker with static, and sometimes it would whisper a word, Ethan. He would smile and say, I hear you. One morning, months later, a little girl in a small snowy town far away stepped out into the fresh white snow. She was laughing, chasing snowflakes. Her cheeks red, her eyes wide. Her name was Lily. She looked up at the sky and paused there, floating in the sky, not a star, not a plane, but something soft, small, and glowing, a silver-blue shape. It blinked once, then faded into the clouds. She smiled. Though she didn't know why, she whispered, hello. Back in the cabin, Ethan sat at his desk, dot in front of him. An old notebook filled with drawings, Naya's memories, the floating trees, the crystal towers, the children of light, the machines before they were broken, and earth, snow, stars. He picked up a pen, added one final line under the last page. Sometimes the smallest visitor brings the biggest change. He looked outside. The machines were still standing, like quiet guardians. He stood, put on his coat, and walked into the snow. Toward them. He didn't fear them anymore. He understood them, because now it was part of something bigger. A memory. A message. A bridge. Somewhere above the earth, the satellite dish still spun gently. It sent out a signal, one that no warship, no code, no machine had ever sent before. A memory made of feeling, of kindness, of a snowy night and a girl from the stars who just wanted to share it.